back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys! So I am here today to review two books. One of them is the start of a new series for me, and I'm very excited to have finally started it. And the other one is the third one in a series which I utterly love, and which I think all of the books so far have got 5 stars from me. So let's dive into it. The first one I'm going to talk about is this one, King's Dragon, which is by Kate Elliott. This has been on my to-be-read shelf for so long, and as you guys saw recently, I reshuffled the whole of this shelf around. I put everything in order and made it all nice, and now I can actually see what I have and what I own. So I've decided I'm starting to work my way through some of the books that have been on my TBR for ages, and this is one of them. This is the very first Kate Elliott book that I think she properly published in this series. It's one of her biggest series. I think there's like 7 books in the series, so it's quite a long series and they're chunky-ish, although I did get through this relatively quickly over a course of a few days, and I really enjoyed it. It's very much classic fantasy, very much in the style of Lord of the Rings. If you like the sort of slow burn paced fantasy, then you're definitely going to enjoy some stuff about this one. I will say, trigger warnings, there is rape, emotional abuse and violent abuse, so if those things are not for you, then definitely avoid. I don't think the rape is dealt with particularly well in this one. I'm hopeful that it gets a bit better as time goes on with the character who is raped, but I don't think it was handled super well or dealt with super well in this particular book. So we'll see as the series goes on. There's plenty more books in the series. So this book has 2 main characters. We have Leith, who is a young girl. She's always travelled around with her father, and they've kind of always been on the move. They've been trying to escape something, and she doesn't quite know who or what that thing is that she's been trying to escape with her father, but he has always made it very clear that they need to stay on the move, and anytime things get a bit too comfortable, they tend to move on and go somewhere else because it's definitely time, according to her father. And her father is very, very talented in the arts of astrology and also potentially magic, although she's not really sure exactly what he knows about it. She's kind of had hints from him about magic, and she's kind of had ideas from him. She's got a book that he owns which is very mysterious and seems like it could be contraband, and it's definitely hinted at that there's some magic underneath, but she doesn't really know because she's never seen him do magic, but she thinks that's probably why they're being hunted. So we're following her story, and she is currently settled in a small village, hoping to live out her days there because she's been on the move her whole life, and this is the first village in a long time where they've actually stayed there for a while, and she's made friends, and she just really wants to settle down and start to enjoy a permanent living area. So she's begging her father not to move on. However, of course, this leads to tragedy, and quickly she is forced into a very different life and a very different role in life, and this leads to some pretty tragic, awful things happening to her. And from that point onwards, her story does become quite a lot about being broken down and then having to build herself back up again. So her story is very sad. It definitely has some really tragic moments that were quite brutal at times. She's one that's easy to sympathise with because of how much horrible stuff happens. The other main character that we're following is Alan, who is a young boy who's destined to go into the monastery and become a monk. He, all his life, has known that this has been his destiny, even though he really wishes he could learn to fight and to be in the army. He's always wanted that, but he knows that he can't because he is a bastard and he is kind of unwanted. Well, he was never asked for more than unwanted. His family are very loving, but he is not their own because his father is no longer around and his mother died when he was born, so he doesn't have much information at all about his family. He just lives with his aunt and uncle who've kind of raised him, but he has always been expected to join the monastery, which he fully intends to do, except that the monastery then gets burned down and he is again forced onto a very different path from the one that he always expected. He gets taken to the castle and the keep and kind of involved in the politics and the going on daily life of the castle. So he also takes a very different turn, although I would say his story is less about him being hurt and more about him seeing what's happening to the others around him and kind of uncovering their secrets and uncovering the politics of this world. It is a very political book. There is a lot of political manoeuvring between the king of this world, King Henry, who is the lawful king and who is supposed to be the ruler. At the time that we're following the book, there is a civil war starting to brew, and it's between the king and his sister, who believe that she is the rightful heir, and she's trying to gather an army and seize the lands that Henry owns. So we have this civil war going on, which neither of our main characters begin part of, but obviously because it is civil war, the whole land around them slowly gets dragged into it, and they do as well. And then we also just have their own personal kind of troubles and battles and lives, and we're following their stories. Another one of the conflicts that we are following alongside the Civil War is that there is a race called the Ike or Ike who are burning and pillaging villages. They're the ones who burned the monastery that Alan was part of or destined to go and be part of, and they're also just taking and raiding and coming across all the shores and essentially targeting all the people of this land, so they're quite a major problem as well. So I will say that this one does not have a huge amount of magic front and centre, but it does promise more magic to come. There are sorceress rituals and black magic being practiced, and we also get hints of like gods or stars that might be to do with magic. So magic is there, but it's certainly something that is frowned upon by the church. It's also something that doesn't seem to be prevalent in the story very much, although there are a few shady goings on, but it's not something that we see an awful lot of. So I would say this is more about the journey, it's more about development of characters and setting up a place at this point in the series. I think as time goes on, probably we're going to see an awful lot more of the magic and the way that this world really truly works. It feels like a very much set up book for the series. It doesn't feel like it has that real punch of a quality standalone or a really interesting kind of conclusion. It definitely feels like it's that slow burn up towards something more epic happening in the later series. So I enjoyed this. I definitely think it's a lot of fun. I definitely think I'd like to continue with the series when I get a chance. I don't own the second one yet, but I will pick it up at some point. And I certainly feel as though it's a good start point, a solid start point for Kate Elliott's writing, because if this is where her start is, then I imagine some of the other books I own by her will be even better. And I've read one of her other books and enjoyed it, but that was a YA one, so I want to read some more of her adult books, and I own a few of them, so I definitely feel like if this is the benchmark that we're starting at, hopefully it will go up and up and up, and I'm really looking forward to discovering more of her worlds and discovering more of her characters as time goes on. Overall, I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see where it goes, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars in the end. So the second book I want to talk about is actually the third book in a series, and it's the third book in this series, which is the Nevermore series, Morrigan Crow series, and I really love this book series. It's so much fun. I've read the first two as soon as they came out pretty much, and I think both of them got 5 stars from me because it is so nostalgic. It feels very much like it has similar vibes to Harry Potter, but it's completely its own world. It's its own version of a similar idea, if that makes sense, and it feels very unique even though it has got similar ideas of a young person going away to wizarding school. That's essentially the very bare bones of the plot, but the reality is that it's actually a fantastic series which really builds on original concepts. It has a lot of original characterization, different sort of styles of people. The magic of this world is really cool. There is like a big bad, almost Voldemort style character, but equally he has a bit more nuance than Voldemort, and I really enjoy the way that he is manipulating some stuff behind the scenes in all the books. Hollowpox in particular is a really fascinating book because I read it during the pandemic, COVID-19, and it was released during the pandemic, and it's very much about a pandemic, so it was really fascinating. I don't know if that was just weird coincidence and she was already planning it, or if it inspired her to write this, but Hollowpox is a disease which is going around the world of Nevermore, and it's affecting Wunimals, who are magical animals who can speak and talk and basically are human but in animal form. And it's affecting them because it essentially makes them go frenzied, and they start attacking people who they were a minute ago friends with, and they kind of completely go on the rampage. They can't be reasoned with, they can't understand what's happening to themselves or each other, and once they frenzy, they cannot be turned back, or at least that's what it seems to be. And we follow Morrigan Crow, our main character, as she is, as always, at the midst of all the drama. She sees quite a few of the incidents happening of Hollowpox around her from friends and people that she meets out in the wild, and she's got a very rare skill in the world of Nevermore, so she kind of ends up quite mixed up in the whole plot. I think particularly reading this at this time, it was nice to see a really hopeful take on a pandemic, if that makes sense. Like, it is a really bad thing that is happening to the Wunimals of this world, but equally the way the author writes about it feels hopeful. It feels like there is good stuff to come if they can only find the solution and the vaccine and the cure. And that's kind of what happens over the course of the book, is their hunt for the vaccine becomes the main point, and their hunt for negotiation and trying to their best to uncover what's really going on. Morrigan becomes very much enmeshed in the plot and in the politics of the world as well, a little bit in this book. And I really think it's just that sort of story that appeals so much to adults and children alike. I just know that kids would love this, but also I am 26 and I love this. So it's really got mass appeal. I definitely feel like it's the sort of book that anyone could read and enjoy. And obviously this is book 3, so don't start with this one, but I think you'll love the whole series. If you read one and you love it, then you'll probably love all of the series. Every time a new one comes out, I really want to own it. I haven't bought the hardback yet because I've really enjoyed the audiobook versions. I've listened to the last 2 on audio, and I'm missing my first one because my sister has it somewhere. So I need to get the first one back, and then I need to buy book 3 and put it on the shelf, because I really think this is just a wonderful series, really, really up there, probably as high, if not higher, than Harry Potter, because it's new, it's fresh, and we don't know what to expect from it. I love Harry Potter and the nostalgia it gives me, but I also feel like this is a new take on that, and it's done so well, and it's just so fun. It's so fun. So I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend, love it. Just wanted to add that on as an end of the review because it's the 3rd one. I can't say too much about it, but I do think it deserves a review because it's great. I loved it. It's definitely one of my top books of the year, and I highly recommend this series if you guys have not yet checked it out, whether you are adult or child or anywhere in between. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will be back again soon with more videos and reviews, so keep an eye on my channel, and I will see you all then. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.